I used to believe the safest place in the world was my own apartment, no matter how stressful work became, no matter how bad a day I had. The moment I locked my front door, I knew I was alone. Or at least, that's what I believed, until someone started unlocking my door. Every single evening, nothing was ever stolen, nothing was ever broken, yet every time I came home, the lock was already open. I spent weeks trying to convince myself I was simply forgetful, that I was tired, distracted, overworked. Then I installed a security camera. The footage showed someone walking into my apartment, but it never showed them leaving. The police searched every room, every closet, every cabinet. They found nothing. 24 hours later, they arrested a man hiding inside my apartment. Everyone said the nightmare was finally over. It wasn't, because the detective later told me something they never released to the public. The man they arrested wasn't the first person they found living inside apartment 312. If you're new here, welcome to Tales of the Dark. The story you're about to hear is inspired by real stalking cases, hidden room discoveries, and reports of intruders secretly living inside occupied homes. Names, locations, and identifying details have been changed. Whether every detail happened exactly this way, you can decide for yourself. This is Tales of the Dark. 6 months after ending my relationship with Daniel, I moved across the city. Not because I wanted a better apartment, because I wanted to disappear. Daniel never accepted the breakup. He never threatened me directly, never broke a window, never damaged my car. Instead, he became impossible to escape. Flowers appeared outside my office. Blank text messages arrived after midnight. Unknown numbers called without speaking. Every time I blocked one number, another appeared. The police couldn't do much. There were no threats, no evidence, just enough to make me uncomfortable, not enough to charge anyone. Eventually, the messages stopped. Weeks passed, then months. I convinced myself he'd finally moved on, so when my company offered me a promotion in another district, I accepted immediately. A fresh start, a different neighborhood, a different apartment, a different life. Apartment 312 wasn't luxurious, it wasn't old either. Just a quiet building filled mostly with office workers. The landlord seemed friendly. The neighbors smiled whenever we crossed paths. For the first time in months, I finally felt safe. The first week was perfect. Work was busy. I'd come home around 6 every evening. Cook dinner, watch a movie, read for a while, then sleep. Nothing strange happened, nothing at all, until the following Monday. I came home carrying groceries. As I reached into my bag for my keys, I noticed something. The door wasn't completely closed. It rested against the frame. Open by less than an inch. I froze. Maybe I hadn't pulled it shut properly, trying not to panic. I slowly pushed the door open. Hello, no answer. I grabbed the umbrella beside the entrance, not because it would help much. Because it was the only thing I had. Every room was exactly as I'd left it. The television was off, the bedroom untouched, the bathroom empty, the kitchen spotless. Even my laptop still sat on the dining table. Nothing had been stolen, nothing had moved. I checked every window. All locked. Eventually, I laughed at myself. You forgot to lock it. That had to be the answer. I locked the door carefully, checked it twice, then went to bed. The next evening, it happened again, the door already unlocked. This time I knew I'd locked it. I could still remember hearing the lock click before leaving for work. Again, nothing was missing, nothing disturbed. Even the groceries I'd forgotten that morning remained exactly where I'd left them. I called the landlord. Maybe the lock is faulty. He arrived 20 minutes later, removed the entire lock, installed a brand new one. This one won't give you any problems. He smiled. If it happens again, call me. I thanked him, honestly believing the problem had finally been solved. I was wrong. Because less than 24 hours later, I stood outside apartment 312, holding a brand new key, staring at a door that was already unlocked. I didn't go inside, not this time. I stood perfectly still in the hallway. Looking at the tiny gap between the door and the frame, my heart kept telling me, Someone was inside, but my mind kept fighting back. It's another faulty lock. The landlord installed it wrong. You're overthinking. I took a slow breath, then pushed the door open. The apartment was silent, exactly the same as yesterday. I checked every room again. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, closet, balcony, nothing, not even a misplaced chair. By the time I finished searching, I almost felt embarrassed. Maybe I really was becoming paranoid. The next morning, before leaving for work, I decided to test myself. I placed a small coin on top of the front door. If anyone opened the door, the coin would fall. Then I balanced a folded receipt against the inside of the kitchen drawer. Barely standing, if the drawer moved, the receipt would fall over. Finally, I took a picture of the living room, every cushion, every chair, every object on the coffee table. Then I left. The entire day, I couldn't concentrate. Around lunchtime, I found myself staring at the apartment photo instead of my computer screen. I zoomed in, nothing unusual. Daniel noticed. "You okay?" I forced a smile. "Just tired." "Still settling into the new apartment?" "Yeah," he laughed. "The first week always feels strange." I nodded, trying not to mention the unlocked door. I didn't want people thinking I was losing my mind. At exactly 6:18 p.m., I reached my apartment. The hallway was empty. The coin was lying on the floor. I felt my stomach drop. Someone had opened the door slowly. I stepped inside. Everything looked normal. I walked straight into the kitchen. The folded receipt had fallen. The drawer was closed. But someone had definitely opened it. I rushed into the living room, opened the photo on my phone, compared it to the room. Everything matched, until I noticed one thing: the television remote. Yesterday, it had been angled toward the window. Now, it pointed toward the hallway. Such a tiny difference. Something almost impossible to notice, unless you'd taken a photograph. I stood there, staring at it. Someone had been here, and they had been careful, very careful. That night, sleep never came. Every tiny sound made me jump. The refrigerator humming, water pipes clicking, someone walking in the hallway outside. At around 2:30 a.m., I heard footsteps, not outside, inside. 1, 2, 3, soft, slow, moving through my living room. I stopped breathing. The bedroom door was open just enough for me to see into the hallway. Nothing. The footsteps stopped. A full minute passed. Then a quiet click, like someone gently locking the front door. Morning arrived. I searched the apartment again. Nothing. No footprints. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints I could see. I was beginning to question myself. Maybe stress really could make people hear things. Maybe I'd imagined everything until I got home that evening. The door was unlocked again. I couldn't take it anymore. Instead of calling the landlord, I bought a small indoor security camera on the way home. Nothing expensive, just one that uploaded footage directly to my phone whenever it detected movement. I placed it on a bookshelf facing the front door. Made sure the living room was fully visible. Then I tested it. I walked out, opened the door, walked back in. The recording worked perfectly. Satisfied, I left for work the next morning. For the first time all week, I actually felt relieved if someone entered. I'd finally know. The notification arrived at exactly 11:43 a.m. Motion detected, apartment 312. My hands immediately started shaking. I opened the app. The recording began. The front door slowly opened. A man stepped inside. He wore a black hoodie, a baseball cap pulled low over his face. His hands were covered with gloves. He paused just inside the doorway, almost as if listening. Then he quietly closed the door behind him without touching a single thing. He walked deeper into the apartment toward my bedroom. The recording continued. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. I kept waiting to see him come back. He never did. The camera kept recording. The front door never opened again. The man had entered my apartment, but somehow he never left. When I realized the recording had reached nearly an hour, and the man still hadn't walked back through the front door, I couldn't breathe. I replayed the footage. Once, twice, 5 times he entered, closed the door, walked toward my bedroom, and disappeared from the camera's view. The front door never opened again. No one came out. I immediately called 911. My voice was shaking so badly the operator had to ask me twice for my address. Stay outside the apartment. Officers are already on their way. I don't even remember driving home. When I arrived, 3 police cars were parked outside the building. 2 officers were already standing outside apartment 312. One of them stopped me. "You're Emma," I nodded. "The apartment has already been cleared." "What?" "We searched every room." "The suspect isn't inside." I stared at him. "Number." I watched him go in. I saw him. The officer looked at his partner. "We'll search again for the next 40 minutes. They searched everywhere: closets, kitchen cabinets, the balcony, the bathroom ceiling, air vents, storage shelves, even behind large furniture. Nothing. One officer watched the security footage himself. He frowned. "He's definitely entering." "So where did he go?" No one had an answer. A detective arrived shortly afterward. His name was Detective Harris. He asked one question that caught me off guard. "Has anything been stolen?" "No." "Money?" "No." "Jewelry?" "No." "Laptop?" "No." He wrote something in his notebook, then quietly asked, "Has anything been moved?" I remembered the television remote, the kitchen drawer, the unlocked door. I nodded. "Only small things." He looked at me for a long moment. "That's usually worse." I didn't understand what he meant, not until later, because people who steal want your belongings. People who move things want you. Since no evidence of forced entry was found, the detective arranged for one uniformed officer to remain outside my apartment until morning. "If anyone comes out, we'll know." For the first time in days, I felt safe. There was an armed police officer sitting outside my door. Whatever had been happening, surely it was over. I tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. Every tiny sound felt louder than normal. The refrigerator, the pipes, cars outside. Around 2:50 a.m. I finally drifted off. I don't know how long I slept, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30. Then something woke me. At first, I thought it was another dream until I heard it again. Breathing, slow, deep, steady, not outside my room, inside it. I sat up, held my breath. The breathing continued. Then I realized it wasn't beside me. It was underneath me, directly beneath the bed. Every muscle in my body locked. I couldn't move. The breathing stopped. Silence. Then a whisper, "Emma." I screamed. The bedroom door burst open. The officer rushed inside with his weapon drawn. "What happened?" I pointed beneath the bed, unable to speak. He dropped to one knee, raised his flashlight, then shouted, "Don't move." Another officer came running. They dragged a man from beneath the bed. He didn't fight, didn't shout, didn't even look surprised. He simply crawled out, as if he'd been expecting this moment. The flashlight illuminated his face. I felt the room begin to spin. It was Daniel, my ex-boyfriend. The man I hadn't seen in 6 months. He looked thinner. His beard had grown out. His eyes were bloodshot, but there was no doubt it was him. He smiled, the same smile that had once made me feel safe. Now it made me feel sick. The police searched his backpack. Inside they found bottled water, protein bars, a phone charger, extra clothes, a flashlight, a duplicate key to my apartment, then a thick notebook. Every page was filled with handwritten notes. Monday, 7:02 a.m. Emma left for work. Tuesday, 6:16 p.m. Ordered Chinese takeout. Wednesday, 11:48 p.m. Cried after phone call. Thursday, watched television until 1:14 a.m. The entries continued for months, not weeks, months. He knew everything: what time I slept, what I cooked, when I left, when I came home, even which side of the bed I slept on. I started crying. Detective Harris quietly closed the notebook. "We're not finished." The next morning, crime scene investigators examined the apartment inch by inch. One technician spent nearly 20 minutes tapping along the bathroom wall. Then he stopped. "Tear this panel out." Behind the bathroom vanity, they discovered a narrow maintenance passage, barely wide enough for one person to crawl through. It connected the plumbing shafts of several apartments. Dust covered most of it, except for one clear path. Someone had been crawling through it regularly. Flashlights revealed blankets, empty food containers, bottles of water, phone chargers connected to an illegal extension cord. Daniel hadn't been entering through the front door, he had been living inside the building. Every morning after I left for work, he crawled through the maintenance passage, unlocked my front door from the inside, walked around my apartment, sat on my sofa, watched television, read my mail, then disappeared back into the wall before I came home. The security camera never showed him leaving because he never used the front door. The investigation uncovered something even worse. Daniel hadn't chosen my apartment, he had chosen the building. 3 months before I moved in, security cameras had already captured him entering the basement several times. He had been mapping the maintenance passages, learning the building, waiting. When he learned through social media that I'd moved, he already knew exactly how to reach my apartment. Police searched his phone, hundreds of videos, most lasted only a few minutes, some lasted hours. They showed him sitting silently on my sofa, standing in my kitchen, watching rain fall through my living room window. One recording showed him standing in my bedroom doorway. While I slept, he never touched me, never spoke, just watched. The final recording was different. It lasted only 12 seconds. Daniel pointed the camera toward the bathroom vanity, smiled, then whispered, "She still hasn't found the door." Daniel pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to prison for stalking, unlawful entry, criminal trespass, and related offenses. The judge later described the case as one of the most disturbing stalking investigations he'd ever seen. The apartment building permanently sealed every maintenance passage. New walls were built, new locks were installed. Apartment 312 was completely renovated. No one told future tenants why. I never moved back even after everything was over. I couldn't sleep in apartments anymore. Years later, I bought a small house. Before moving in, I checked every crawl space, every attic, every closet twice. Some people laughed when I told them why. I didn't care, because once you've spent weeks wondering whether someone is secretly living inside your home, you never stop checking, not ever. That was the end of this story. If you've ever experienced something you still can't explain or have a strange story of your own, send it to Tales of the Dark. Your story could become the next nightmare featured on this channel. If you are new here, subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.